I like to start every session or any group meeting I have with like an icebreaker. So I want you to introduce yourself and inform me what you want from this space, what you want to receive from this space, okay?
I am a DC native, and I came because you are a mental health professional, and I am starting my first job in mental health, so I just wanted some insight from another professional that is a woman of color.
My name is Rodney, and I'm an educator, and mental health is something that is at the forefront of my profession, so I'm always trying to see how I can learn new strategies, learn new ways to engage with my students, and to improve my own life as well.
All right, well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Kelvin Isom. I'm not from here originally. I'm from Atlanta, but I was enlightened to come here today because I'm an advocate of mental health, Black mental health, minority mental health. Today, what I'm looking to get out of here is just finding different bridges to like intertwine different segments to tap in and connect with other individuals as far as like mentees and to see where other areas that we can improve upon.
Yes. Okay, cool. So what's good, y'all? My name is Jamar. So I'm an aspiring educator, working on my way, trying to get my foot in the door with all of that. But really, I'm just here today, just because like every time I've been to the grow sessions before, it's always been something that's like just super engaging. I walk away feeling like I got different tools and tactics to really be productive and just reach my goals. And like I will always walk out here feeling like if I had money to pay for therapy, I'd do that, but I don't. So we here, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah.
Hi everyone. My name is Ariel. I am also an educator. I work in special education. It's my passion. So mental health is definitely something that's near and dear to my heart. I care a lot about Black mental health and how we are raising our Black kids, because this world is a crazy one. So I'm excited to be here and just learn a little bit more about mental health from a professional. I'm not going to be able to stay the whole time, but I'm excited to have entered the space and for what I do get today.
I'm Ajay. I'm open to hear everything you have to say. Mental health is really important to me. It's kind of big in my family. I've worked for organizations that are in mental health, and I've been just experiencing it throughout my entire life. So I just want to hear that what you guys say, because it's just important. Yeah, so that's it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Athua Riverson, from the DMV, first-gen Ghanaian American. I'm really excited to be within this space with all of you. I work in communications, and so I'm very interested to find out how I can use certain strategies to help complement any educator, so that folks are learning in a fun way, hopefully, but hopefully in a way that they remember. So that is okay. That's one reason why I'm here. And then secondly, really grateful to be in community with the GrowCery. Did I get that right? Family today. First event I've attended in person, but have been a virtual attendee, so really grateful that it's grown into this beautiful space.
Okay, well, thank you guys. Thank you. I'm Nardia. Originally from New York. I've been in mental health for about 5.5, 6 years. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in DC. I'm a humanistic therapist, so that means I look at the person holistically. So I feel like before I can help you combat your mental health issues, I have to look at all aspects of you. Because if I help you mentally, but I don't help you in regards to your social health or your spiritual health, what am I really helping, right? If I put you back in the same environments or around the same people, then what are we really doing? So I look at you all, right? So financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, I want to tackle that as a whole so we can get to a better place. So I want us all just to agree that this is a safe space and we can all be open, right? We agree? Yes. All right. So the topic is a little interesting one. I think we speak about stigma a lot, especially mental health stigma, right? I want to speak about how we can grow from the stigmas that we have placed on ourselves and others. Not only mentally, but just in general, right? So the topic is beyond the label, redefining mental health stigma. When you hear the phrase beyond the label, what do you guys think?
Like what's deeper outside of like what people perceive you as just when they see you.
Okay.
So beyond like and like the duties they put on people, like duties for women, duties for men, duties for like that.
Yeah, that's true. Anyone else?
Something that goes beyond face value, you know, not just surface level, a surface level analysis. A lot of times people can be labeled, especially in mental health, as, you know, I used to just call people crazy. And now there's a lot of different labels, but, you know, two people with the same label may have completely different challenges and completely different solutions that work for them. So I think, you know, you kind of have to go beyond the label to look deeper to get to the root of the issue so you can find a solution.
When they think about that, beyond the label, or just labels in general, what do you guys think about?
I think about one's identity, both the one they have of themselves and I think those that are assumed about that individual as well.
So everyone's right? And that stigma has to do with labels a lot of times. So it's the definition of a stigma is a set of negative or unfair beliefs that society has placed on a person or a certain group. I think we all can understand that in this room, right? Coming from different backgrounds, it could be different socioeconomic statuses, different cultures, different races. Those stigmas that are placed on us, those labels that are placed on us. In this session, I want to go beyond that, right? I think a lot of times, and I tell my clients this too, like, don't believe the label. Understand it. Understand that it's an aspect of you. It's not fully encompassed of who you are, right? When we understand those diagnoses, right? Those anxieties, those mistrusts, and we have a better understanding of it, we know how to combat it. You're not of it, right? And so that's what I want you guys to get from this session. So, stigma. What are some stigmas that you hear in mental health? You said it. Right. Crazy. You said it. Crazy. Okay.
I mean, I think to some people, mental health is still a stigma. I think we've come a long way from where it used to be, where people would be very, like, especially the black community, like, therapy, oh, like, you must be crazy. Like, why would I need therapy? I can remember being a kid and, you know, having anger and my mom being like, well, maybe you should see a therapist. And, like, I was very offended and I refused. But I think now we're getting closer to an era where people are more willing to embrace it. But, you know, I still have a lot of friends that, you know, I had a friend call me the other day. He was like, I'm at the most successful point in my life. You know, I got this great job, I got the crib, I got the car, but I'm not happy. And I was like, well, maybe you should see a therapist. He was like, come on, bro, stop playing with me. Like, why would I need therapy? And I'm like, because you clearly have some stuff you got to work out, you know, especially coming where we came from, the struggle a lot of us have been through. You know, it only makes sense we will have issues to work out. So I think there's still a lot of stigma with a lot of people around here.
If you go to therapy, you're weak.
Right? If you go to therapy, you're weak, right?
Yeah.
What else?
Some people say that's for white people.
That's for white people. Okay.
I would say like we got layers, because when you touch on the second part, that's for white people. It's like it's supposed to have like particularly.
What if you have mental health issues? You lazy or unmotivated?
That's what I was like. That's when you said crazy. I was thinking like lazy, because it's like
you're lazy, you're unmotivated. Right. This is just a time, you'll get over it, right?
I don't know if this is a label, but I know, like, if you acknowledge that you deal with anxiety, something that you'll hear or get combated with is like, that's just in your head. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just saying that, but really you just don't know how to process your emotions. You know what I'm saying? It's not really something that I've heard people really acknowledge as a thing that someone actually has to go through. It's really just like, oh, you just saying that, really, yeah. So I don't know if it's really a label, but it's like a dismissive type of response.
We speak about that individually. How's it as a whole, right? Let's look at media, social media, right? Movies. How does mental health look there?
Like something as simple as like depression, it's seen as like you can't get out of bed, you can't brush your teeth, like you're crying all the time, and it's just not always as exaggerated as media portrays it to be.
Okay, so exaggerated. You can't get out of bed.
I feel like in the media you see the opposite. Like they kind of promote it as though it's easily attainable. You know what I'm saying? It's like you need therapy, go get a therapist. It's like, oh, I don't need money to get it. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So
We have accessibility.
exactly. So I think in the media it makes it appear as though if you don't take that extra step to get a therapist, etc., it just looks like you're not putting in the work to do so, rather than, like you're saying, accessibility and also just the attainability of it through resources. So lack of resources. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. So in the media, I would say it's always like they don't show it as like a catastrophic event. It's like depression, anxiety, any type of mental health condition someone may experience. They could be having a normal day. They could have went on vacation. They could have went to the grocery store. It's not always some catastrophic, you know, someone died and now I'm sick. Like some people every single day deal with some type of mental health crisis or experience. So, you know, when people, they're not as sensitive, they think it has to be something big, but it's not. It's like little things every day that someone may not see that contributes to someone's experience with having a mental health crisis.
Like all right, for Baltimore, that's where I'm from. I'm born and raised, so I'll see like the funny videos of like, well, not funny, but to some people it'll be like fiends or junkies or people that are like out on the street that have episodes and they really probably schizophrenic or they have bipolar or something like that, but they making it a joke. And you know, they egging them on and just, you know, playing with them as if they like, you know, as if they just like regular and that's just how they are. It could be drugs too, but drugs combined with the mental health, that's what they show it, but they show it like it's a game. Like they play, you know, they play on them like it's nothing for real. So that's what I see when I'm on social media.
Yeah, and drugs is mental health actually, right? So in the DSM-5, substance use is a mental health condition, right? So someone being on coke, weed, right? Molly's, that is considered a mental health issue as well, just like back in the day, right? You being gay, right? Or having a different sexual orientation, that was seen as a mental health issue, right? But things have changed over the years, but we still have those stigmas that come up. So when we think about the stigmas and things of that nature, we see these things in social media. What comes up for you when you're dealing with mental health issues? How do you describe yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Solomon Ogieber. I am a business owner in the area of mental health and just how we treat each other and how we feel is an important topic. So thanks for the invite. I like what you just talked about, and I want to talk about knowing when you're feeling anxiety, right? Being able to acknowledge it for yourself before someone else comes to acknowledge it for you. I think it's super important. You know, I'm a little older than maybe some of you in here. I'm in my 30s. I remember when you were going through something around your boys, you didn't question it as anxiety. You didn't question it as a mental health issue. These weren't things that we talked about. Therapy was so far off, so it's beautiful to see that now. So I've done things in my personal life, and I know many people have done things in their life to be able to recognize and say, okay, this is something that's affecting me, and be able to, categorize it too, right? There are different impacts to how things make you feel. I like what you talked about it being, sometimes it could be anything that triggers you to feel a certain type of way, but it's recognizing it. And once you recognize it, everybody has different methods, but I believe in, taking a seat and just breathing, or standing up and breathing and slowing down your breathing. But of course, talking to someone always helps as well. But I just wanted to mention being able to just recognize it, and then you can identify the impact or how much it is affecting you. But I love the generation that we're in and the time we're in where people are, especially young men, are more accepting of identifying how they feel or how something is triggering them to lead to an adverse action.
So I know with me being Nigerian, mental health and being West African is the thing. But I can say one thing I saw with my parents, when my dad came home from work, my mom was like, give your dad at least an hour so he can decompress and just rest. Because like every day, all of us, we're fighting capitalism. So it's like, she's like, the first thing when he comes home, yes, he loves you, but he doesn't want to have to hear about, the field trip and the homework. Like, give him that hour. So something in my life that I do when I log off, I don't care what's going on. I give myself at least an hour to lay there, do whatever, just rest. And just rest my brain, rest my thoughts, and just lay still. Something I also do, I always tell myself, have a big three. And your big three are things that no matter what's going on with anybody else and with you, you do yourself. So whether it's taking my vitamins, going to the gym, putting my affirmations, I have to do those 3 things every single day before anybody else gets anything out of me. So that way I know if I'm off, if I'm triggered, if I'm overwhelmed, I know what I didn't do. That's why I'm feeling this way. Not, okay, I know I'm overwhelmed, what didn't I do today? So once I do those 3 things, and my thing is, everybody's 3 things will be different. Some people, they stretch, some people, they pray. So I always tell people, whatever your, list of 3 or how many everythings you need, they're very simple that will, start your day off, that will get you going, that will motivate you to do whatever it is that you want to do those things so that when you are feeling off or someone does piss you off, you can't say, I don't know, or you misplace your feelings or anger towards someone else.
You guys just jumped the board. Y'all already told me what self-care y'all will use with the I love it. I'm happy you guys brought that up and you guys are in a better place in understanding your mental health and what's needed for you within the moment. So I appreciate that, and I hope that you guys can take some tips and kind of make it your own in that way. When we were just talking about how those things impact us, right? The reason why I wanted to know that is because it also impacts the willingness of us to get help. More than 40% of people do not seek out mental health because of those stigmas, right? 16.5% of people with depression seek mental health. Over 50% of people have mental health issues, right? Let's say out of 50%, 16.5 seek out help. Isn't that crazy? No pun intended. No, why not?
I think everyone has said it before. It depends on what you're comfortable with and the stigma that associated with it. In our community, seeking mental health seeking help for mental health or illness is a white people thing, not in our community. You pull your boots up, tough it out, figure it out, whatever it is. You get through it. And then our history has been a history of dealing with horrific trauma and going through it. And everybody just expects you to go through it. So the numbers, that's pretty high. Even 60% out of 50 is pretty high. But I think to what the brother said, with time has changed, it has become more accepted. And I think a big thing that's happened for us in our community is the athletes, especially the black athletes, that have made it a point to like, listen, I'm going through something. I don't care you pay me millions. I'm still going through something. When I'm ready, I'll get back on the field.
I think we got to break that stigma, through whatever means necessary. Sometimes like I'll talk to about mental health is something like, if I know somebody's money motivated or their status motivated, I'll be like, man, you doing all this and you don't got a therapist? Like even if that, because back in the day we used to say like, oh, this is some white people stuff. Black people don't have the time. We don't have the, like, we're too busy suffering and struggling to worry about mental health. But like, we don't got to be that busy anymore. Like we don't have to be suffering and just dealing with it and passing on generational trauma because we don't want to go to a therapist. So it's like, all right, you spending money here, you going on this vacation, you buying this crib, you doing this and that, but like, are you seeing a therapist every week? Like that impresses me if you're taking care of your mental health on that side. So I think it has to be something that we have to continue to celebrate and glorify.
So when you had responded, no, I don't think that's surprising. First of all, my name is Tamara. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself, but it had brought something up. It's one thing for me to stigmatize myself or to accept stigmas that people have to like. Okay, if I go to a therapist, I'm crazy, or if I start taking medication X, Y, and Z. But I think it's another thing for a professional to label you something that you have. And so like with narcissism being a thing that now people say is a red flag, right? If a therapist tells me I'm a narcissist, that could take me down like a deeper, darker tunnel of depression, because now I have to openly admit that I am a narcissist in a world that tells me that's the one thing that no one should really gravitate towards. At least that's what I see in social media. So I think that's another thing that may stop people from seeking help, is to then be labeled something and have to admit like, I am schizophrenic, I am bipolar, I am, not knowing that is going to be the gateway to their healing, but that just having to admit that can be tough for some people.
Of course, no, that's true, right? And a lot of times, especially when it comes to our community, we get misdiagnosed. A lot of times people of color are narcissistic. They're borderline, right? They're bipolar, they're schizophrenic. They have ADHD. They have a behavioral issue, right? Let's put them on medication. Let's cut a check. You know, we have a lot of educators in here, right? Let's put them in a sped class. And that's why I said earlier, it's being able to educate yourself and understand. I work in two different populations. I work in a jail and I work in a hospital. In the hospital, when I'm seeing people in general, not only people of color, I'm always saying, get a second, third, fourth opinion. I'm a professional and I'm telling you that because it's true. The stigma is there. Historically, Black people have been misdiagnosed and mistreated. As we are looking at those labels, a clinician comes up to you and say, hey, I believe you're narcissistic. What is that? Let me look for myself. Let me see if I have those symptoms. Let me ask someone else about it. What can I do to combat these things? How can I understand my triggers?
I think a lot of us have a lot of mistrust for medical establishments in general, coming out of COVID and everything like that. And even myself, like I have some mistrust. I have a therapist, but I have some mistrust of like mental health. You know, my cousin was going to take his daughter to see a therapist, and he was like, and I've seen a therapist, but my therapist didn't like diagnose me with a label. And he was like, I think something's going on with my daughter. I'm going to try to get a diagnosis and see. I'm going to ask her what the issue is. And I was like, well, I mean, if you pay them this money, they're going to tell you it's something. You know, like I don't like how many people go in to this office and just get diagnosed with nothing. You know, and at first, like I guess they got diagnosed with anxiety, but then like a couple months later, they said it was actually post-traumatic stress. And I'm like, well, okay, well, what if she had stopped going after anxiety and now she just think for her whole life she has anxiety disorder? But now that he said it's post-traumatic stress, now it's post-traumatic stress. So I think like it just highlights the importance of getting multiple opinions. I think, you know, I of course think mental health is important, and I trust the experts, but I think you got to do your research to a certain extent as well.
I feel like from the PTSD, she could have developed anxiety.
Course, yeah.
So it could be I feel like when people go to therapy, it's like a combination of multiple things. It's probably something that are more severe, probably, but I feel like the base level is well, just from what I think.
Yeah, so that's another thing too, right? Personality disorders are on a spectrum. So a person can start off being bipolar, and they can kind of merge to being borderline or schizophrenic. It's on a continuum, right? It's not linear in any way. So it has its ebbs and flows in a sense. But that's not all diagnoses. That's just some, right? But that's again being able to understand more and get those opinions, those second, third, fourth opinions, will assist you in better understanding what you need moving forward. It's beyond therapy, it's beyond medication. You have to look at all aspects to fully feel healed in that.
My name is David Clark. I'm the academic coordinator at DC Jail. I think one of the things that we can do is what we're doing right now. No different than when you're with your boys, your homegirls, whatever. If they're going through something, let them know it's okay to go through something, but also find help. Because I think we can have all the athletes and all the celebrities we want saying mental health is important and so on, but true change starts in this room when you go back to your families, your communities and so on, because you're there when you're like whoever you with or whoever is special to you come to you like, yo, I'm in a bad place, this happened, mom died, whatever life throws at you. But at that moment, you're the most important person that can make the difference. Like, listen, you need to talk to somebody. Like, I know you may not want to, but dude, you got insurance. What is the insurance for? Go talk to somebody. It's free. You got a flex spending account. Nothing's coming out your pocket. Set an appointment. Just go and see and talk to somebody. And if the person you're talking to doesn't relate to you or not of, don't feel comfortable talking to them. Find someone till you are comfortable talking to them, because it's important that you take care of yourself.
I was gonna say, yeah, like this culmination of like all the stuff all y'all was hitting on. Like, I think even like you were saying, like when celebrities and we get commercials and things that are talking about, like, oh, you know, get better health. Like on one level, I feel like it helps, and at the same time, it still kind of goes back to make it seem like it's that lofty thing that you have the luxury of being able to. Gronk can take a day off. You know what I'm saying? I can't take no days off. But I mean, even for myself, right? I don't even know if I got ADHD just because of the whole stigma around it. It's like nobody believes it's really even real. You know what I'm saying? It's like, are you just lazy? And it's like, you know, it's like going back, like even like the childhood. Like my mom was a special educator. She used to always say like, oh yeah, you know, you really struggle with like your executive function and like just certain, you know, getting the pieces connected type of thing. But like the word ADHD was never used, right? And I was in, you know, talented and gifted classes. So I feel like even with that as a label, like when we classify people, like, so I feel like we look at special ed as not just, you know, okay, people are like in SPED classes, but also if you're in AP class, that's a form of special education. Even somebody who's in that class or who's, you know, might be hitting certain markers academically or whatever, like still can have things going on. So I feel like just getting back, like having the conversations and not letting, you know, stigmas of what, you know, armchair, like social media therapists, you know, say on the internet, you know, like you got to look at like your own life and what you see your struggles are.
At this point, you got people that are quote unquote gifted, talented, in all these magnet classes, and they the ones jumping off buildings. Right. So even though they may fit the supposed to be stable and so on, you really don't know what's going on in somebody's head and what can push them over.
People wear masks. We all wear masks, right? When you walk into an interview, when you going on a first date, right? When you meet in the mother-in-law, we wear masks to a certain extent. These things are perception, right? So what you said, a lot of times we see things on social media, we see things in person, and we think it's what it is, and it's not. Those people can be struggling with things, right? They can be suicidal, they can be depressed, they can be broke. It's more of understanding yourself, what's needed for you, how you can feel well and fulfilled.
I would say, for me personally, living and basically being the example. That's how I guess I would challenge the stigmas, because my personal stigma. So my mom has bipolar depression. My entire life has been that, and it runs in my family. Like part of my family also, that's who has the organization for mental health. So it's like part of them, they deal with it and they cope with it. They do meds, all that stuff. But it's another part that they struggle with it. She also just got out of jail, so y'all too saying that y'all working in jail. So she's been better with that her whole life. But stigmas on me have been, you gonna be just like your mom, or you know, like it runs in your family. You know, your grandmother got a little bit of something too, your great grandmother too, and so people have watched me grow, and my whole life has been not to prove them wrong. At first, it was to prove them wrong, but I also know it was for myself. So basically, I eat, sleep, and breathe coping strategies so I'm not around certain people. I listen to certain music. I keep my space a certain way, certain scents. I do yoga, meditate. I take baths all the time. I do sports all the time. Like, because when I was younger, sports and like dance, extracurricular activities, those were what I did to keep me sane. Because I would always hear you're gonna be just like her. So I was like, well, if I'm always constantly active and doing things, and you know, I won't, maybe it'll help. But yeah, but until then, that has been like my thing. Just be the example. And I try to preach to people, but I do talk to people a lot about it. But I just try to just set the standard, and people see me like, how you've been through all this stuff and you are how you are. And so when they ask, then I'll tell them. But until then, I just do. So yeah.
When we spoke about being beyond the label and growing beyond the label, that's what you're doing right now, right? You're envisioning what you want to see for yourself and other generations beyond that, right? You're showing your family members that are dealing with mental health issues what they can do to change it, what they can do different. So I'm very proud of you in that. I thought I saw another hand. Did I see another hand?
I won't jump in just because I thought you guys keep it. I can't say. But nah, so it's crazy because, like I said, I don't know if I said, but literally, like, I remember I was like, I don't tell people, like, I don't know, I made it, but just even have a conversation with people. Like, I knew one dude, he from New York, he like, man, what an ADHD, that shit ain't real me. You know what I'm saying? It's like just people that don't even believe that certain mental health issues and certain things even exist. It's like, okay, you just lazy, or, you know what I'm saying? You just, do what you want to do whenever you want to do it, you know what I'm saying? It's like you focus on things you want to focus on. And so, like, even fighting that and just, like, the reverse thing, like this whole social media piece of, like, when you get the backlash, I want to say of, like, mental health becoming a trend, but like when it becomes a trend and it's like people start getting misdiagnosed and now y'all know what stuff even really is, it got to a point where for me I was like, okay, for real, like let me just look at what are the symptoms and the things that I'm experiencing, and like what are the practical tools that I can use to get me from point A to point B. So even if I don't have no official diagnosis or whatever for depression or for anxiety, it's like and I feel like for a lot of people, that may be the impetus to be like, okay, I could go to therapy, just because sometimes a label or diagnosis can be scary, or they may not be ready to like accept that, but just the practical piece to like get from point A to point B.
Wait, so I think your original question was something about like how can we help like break the stigma or like be more comfortable with mental. Okay, yeah. So I think that we could start it with not even just like when seeing someone going through something, just like you do really y'all do really proactive things so you don't get to that point. I think like starting in the home, like even when you're having children, just showing your children when you are vulnerable so they know they can be vulnerable. These are appropriate and okay emotions to show, and then showing them this is how I get through these types of difficult emotions. Even just that like just small things like, oh, I'm just really stressed about this. Like children seeing that, I think it helps when you're growing up and you're like, okay, these are okay emotions to show. I know what they are, I know how to express them, and I know proactive ways to deal with them before even getting to the point of saying to a friend, hey, you should go see a therapist.
Yeah, I think modeling is really important. My father told me when I started going to therapy, he told me that he had gone to therapy, and like it blew my mind. Like, why are you only telling me this now as an adult? Like, I had this whole stigma, and he's like, well, I got really low. It was a real difficult time, back in the day, and I wish he had told me that, when I was younger. And then you also mentioned something about tools, so not even necessarily having a specific diagnosis, but looking up, what your symptoms were and looking for the tools. And really that's what it's all about. Like, we're not going to therapy just to talk, we're going to therapy for tools. And earlier you asked, like, how do you recognize kind of when you are maybe having mental health challenges or when you need some support? And there were times before I had tools when I really wouldn't recognize it. Like, somebody around me might say like, hey, are you okay? Because you haven't shaved in like 2 weeks and you just sitting in the house and you're not going nowhere. And I'm like, you know what? That might not be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't notice, but other people noticed. And now, now that I have kind of tools, it's a lot easier to tell. I don't gotta wait 2 weeks. I might be able to tell within a day, like, man, I'm feeling more angry. What, have I not eaten? Am I stressed? It's a lot easier to kind of regulate and not have to damage relationships or lose a job or do something unfortunate, but instead just kind of practice those tools.
I want to give both these young people some credit. What she mentioned about modeling, and then your dad, he brought me a story to my father. I'm going to speak in my native language. Born in Jamaica, but raised in Brooklyn. That come out. The whole thing I come out. My dad, when I was 16 years old, a friend of mine died of natural causes in Vanderveer Projects in Brooklyn. during, well, the crack epidemic. Bottom line, the police was too scared to go get the body after he collapsed of a heart attack. He had a heart condition. And I remember going to his wake and not crying on his wake, going home. And I told my dad I didn't cry because I didn't believe men cried. And my daddy said to me, David, me cry. When he said that, it changed my life. Because my dad to this day is my superhero. So when she said that about modeling, like now I cry. Movies, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, and to what you said, like I felt it. Like it took me back to when I was 16, when I like didn't believe men cried or nothing. For my dad to tell me he cried, it's like, David, life hard. Sometimes all you can do is just have a good cry. I'm like, Daddy, really?
Yeah.
So thank you.
So this is a very layered question that you asked. So my healthcare brain, because I'm a project director, so I always tell people at the end of the day, you know, one, you are your best advocate, and two, you know, you're not always responsible for what happens to you, but you have to have a responsibility to hold yourself accountable to fix it. So I tell people, you know, at the end of the day, you have to do something. Man, do what someone else do, but you have to do something. So it comes even like your insurance. Like you can literally go to your insurance and see what providers are available to you. Do they take your insurance? You know, what type of copay? And ask them those questions. You know, hey, I'm experiencing this. This happened. Everyone has some type of trauma. So it's like at some point in time, you want to carry that in your spirit going forward. Also, when you're being partnered with someone, you should ask certain questions. You know, do you have a family history? Do you have a genetic history? What's the same way people test, you know, for STDs and HIV and sickle cell? Have you gotten tested? Have you spoken to a therapist? You know, how do you release your emotions? You know, do you do silent treatment? You know, all those things are pertinent for intimate relationships, for even friendships. You know, hey, if you really know your friend, if you haven't spoken to them, let me check on them. But also, too, you shouldn't have to wait until something happens to say, let me check on my friend. You should also know as your triggers, hey, did I, again, from a healthcare perspective, you know, unfortunately, our people, we've been, you know, Tuskegee experiment, you know, all types of experiences have been done to us. So, of course, most Black people do not trust any healthcare provider, but you have to trust someone. And again, you have to ask those questions and advocate for yourself. But also simple things. It's getting darker earlier. Are you taking your vitamins? Are you taking vitamin D? Historically, we used to live by the equator. Most people now don't. It gets dark at like 3 o'clock now. So taking your vitamin D, taking, you know, calcium, going outside for a walk for fresh air, taking a shower, you know, doing things that refresh yourself. So when that, you know, trigger or the episode does happen, you can say, okay, I've done all of the things necessary and listen to my body. I've had a meal. I'm not dehydrated. Okay, something is actually wrong. So if something is wrong, now you can actually have a conversation with your PCP or with your therapist and say, I've done all the normal things I'm supposed to do as a human. I've taken a shower, I've eaten, I've, you know, gotten adequate rest, I've drank water, something else feels off. Also, be aware of who you're around. If you're around certain people, is your central nervous system overwhelmed? Are you anxious? Are you off? Yeah. Because that is also something to say with your body, okay, I'm in a certain space. I feel at peace. I feel equilibrium. So there's certain questions that even before, you know, seeing a therapist or seeing your PCP, you can ask. So that way, when that episode, God forbid, does happen, if you can't reach your therapist, if you can't talk to a friend, you know how to self-regulate in a way.
Can I give her kudos too? Because she mentioned vitamin D. One of the things that, and I think Ms. Greenwood could say, because we work at the same place, working in the jail, there is no natural light. For the first time in my life, I was vitamin D deficient. I'm looking at the doctor like, what y'all talking about? I'm going to have to take vitamin D. Because, like, I'm outdoors. Like, I'm a black white boy. It's mountain biking. Like, I'm outdoors. Traveling. So when he told me, I'm like, what y'all talking? So that hit me, because again, I didn't even know, but after just thinking about it, I was like, yeah, you're right. There is no light in this place. The only time you see light is when you come in and when you're leaving out. So that like you said, just knowing your body chemistry and like what makes you tick. And then we all people of the sun. If you don't see no sun for 8 to 16 hours, that gets your spirit, not just the chemical, but just your spirit just goes down, especially in the winter when it turned dark at 3 o'clock.
Also, too, when you go to your PCP, ask for certain tests, especially women. Ask for your thyroid, ask for your hormone test, check all your, levels, so that way if something is off, okay, my iron is low, my vitamin D is low, like all these things are low, so when you do get a prescription, you know exactly what you're taking. And even if the doctor says, oh, well, I don't think so, ask anyway. Because again, you are your best advocate. And I'd rather you have the numbers and say, okay, I've gotten these tests, and my doctor's saying no, you get a second opinion, versus not having your baseline and knowing what it is. And then now you're taking cocktail medications from TikTok, which I don't advise anybody to do. I just think people do that. And so like what's going on instead of just taking things. I mean, I know old wives' tales and, Big Mama, take this. And certain things do work, yes, but it's 2023. We can't just rely on, prayers and just certain things. If you need help, get a second opinion, tell somebody. And lastly, I see we're all Black people of color. Our Caucasian, people, they advocate for themselves 100%. They'll cry at work. I'm neurodivergent. I have, all these pronouns, all those things. When you're most comfortable, share what you need to, but don't feel afraid to advocate for yourself and keep a paper trail. Like I've told my own boss, I said, listen, I have anxiety, so don't ping me randomly for a meeting. Give me an agenda. Tell me, hey, Chiwendu, I want us to have a meeting at a certain time, so that way I'm not, I'm not going to get fired. So when you implement certain boundaries and communicate and advocate for yourself and say, hey, this is how I work, this is how my brain works, then they will only now know and say, okay, that person has vocalized what they go through, how they deal, how to communicate, how their brain processes. Now we can give them the tools to, do whatever they need to function properly.
I really wanted to just add on to what you said, and I think you put the nail in the coffin. So I'll just say this, that health is really wealth when we're aligning it to therapy. So I really like that you said that. So I wanted to just reiterate that is so important to know your body, right? And really know how you're feeling based on whether it's sun deficiency or it's the food you're eating, and how it's making your body feel, and then how it's making you actually feel every day. So the health is actually a very great start to therapy, and I think aligning those two things is very important.
I want us to throw out some ways that we can promote more empathy and understanding besides language when it comes to stigmas in general, but also mental health stigmas. So what are some other things you think that will promote that change?
Some of my friends, if they come over to my space or we outside or something like that, I'll just I'll make it a joke, but I'll say, all right, let's do 20 push-ups real quick. We'll try something like that. Or let's do 10 jumping jacks. So let's do this. And it's, even though it's to them, I'm not about to work out, it's really just me trying to have them do something active that'll help them, release, what is it, the endorphins or whatever, the dopamines and all that stuff. I try to just randomly do something fun, or if I put on soothing music, because I do hair and makeup, so when I have my clients, I put certain music on that'll help them be calm, and or if I'm sitting with somebody and they know I meditate, I'd you try and breathe real quick, and we'll just sit and breathe together. And it's I try to help somebody with just a small piece of something to help them,
having intentional conversations with the people around you, kind of similar to what you were saying. Asking your friends, what do you do for self-care? What do you do for mental health? Keeping an open mind, but also not being afraid to kind of push back and challenge people. One of my friends might be I smoke when I come home, and I'll be like, that's cool, but that might be more relief than solution. It might provide you relief, but is it solving the issues that you have in your life? And if it's not, then let's be solution oriented. What can we do that's solution oriented to help? So just having conversations, challenging people, challenging assumptions in a loving way.
I want to piggyback off the intentional conversations. When I was in college, my roommate and I, every week on Sunday, I guess you can call it like a self-care Sunday sort of, but we would have a conversation and it was like, how are you doing mentally? How are you doing physically? How are you doing financially? How are you doing socially? And it was just like a check-in. Like even if something wasn't wrong, but if something was wrong, it was like, okay, I know this conversation's about to happen and I can bring it up. So that just giving the people around you the space to be vulnerable and speak with you at all times.
I saw this on social media, and I thought it was super effective, even though we already do it. And it's piggybacking once again on being intentional. Finding people every day to hug. You know, like if you're intentional about that, it's therapeutic both ways, for you and for them. Right? You can get into the epigenetics of it. You know, the what we call aura, right? When you hug somebody, if you actually pay attention, there are things you feel. There's a sense of electricity going through your body. Exactly. So if you're intentional about that, it's easy therapy. You know what I mean? So, you're not just gonna go hug a random person. So if you're intentional, it's like, okay, do I like this person at my job? Let me give you a hug today. You know, Chad, I like you. Instead of shaking your hand, bro, let me draw you in today. You see what I mean? If you're intentional about it, and it leads to more positive mindset. You know, if you're feeling down and you hug somebody in the morning, it lifts your energy up.
You can hug somebody, you can take off your shoes and walk in the grass, right? You can sit in a field, right? You can listen to music, you can exercise, but being able to have that physicality helps a lot when it comes to mental health. I like to do things a little bit different, and I want to do a collective poem in a sense. I want us to think about the word grow, and I want you to write one line when you think about the word grow. You can use the word grow if you want to in that line, or you can just think about what encompasses grow.
Regardless where I'm planted, I'm gonna grow.
Even if I'm planted in the dark, I know pressure makes diamonds.
You can grow inside of a Dixie cup. Root skybound gas for condensation.
Growth is spiritual alignment of the heart and the mind.
Reaching a new realm of reality is growth.
A lifetime journey of learning oneself.
Go forth in gratitude, replenish your people, replenish your soul.
To sometimes wilt and be watered still, pouring into oneself and pouring into, and being poured into.
An opportunity to create and learn lessons.
I am both the harvester and the harvest.
To go through my circumstances, grow. See what happens, and let's grow together. Thank you, guys.